So we're up and running in 2024, and I thought I'd share my thoughts on a couple of autogyros. Now if you followed my channel you might know I was a fan of the Pitcairn gyros in FSX. Those were produced by Golden Age Simulations, and if you're a real nerd you might know I even got a credit in the manual for that product, essentially for nagging Golden Age into building the FSX version at all. A decade later, I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was excited when Blue Mesh announced that it was bringing a modern autogyro to FS 2020, only to be disappointed when they later announced they'd cancelled it. Of course, now we know why it was cancelled. They'd obviously made a deal with Asobo, and so now we finally get to see it in FS 2024. Meanwhile, in 2023, another developer, Rara Avis, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, released a retro modern autogyro for FS 2020. This was the Bulldog, which models a real world, or almost real world. The company actually went bust before it went into production, but nevertheless a real world-ish autogyro built around a modern Rotorhead radial engine. Now this is a 2020 model, but it also runs in FS 2024. So it's legitimate competition for the default Magni from Blue Mesh and Asobo. Now if you want some technical details on how an autogyro works, you can check out my flying windmill video. But for now we're just going to see how they look and fly in 2024. Now I was going to do an in-depth comparison of these two aircraft, but in truth there really is no depth. So we'll take them as they are. The one I'm flying here is the default Magni M24, and its defining features really are that you can fly it very slowly and it has a good view. Now it's almost trivially easy to fly, and it's pretty manoeuvrable, especially if you've got rudder pedals. Now it's doubtful if the flight characteristics are realistic in any sense. Like all the sims, or the Microsoft ones anyway, there's no way properly to model an autogyro, so this is likely a collection of workarounds and fiddles to a standard fixed wing flight model to give us an approximate experience. So let's get on the ground and we'll start by having a look at this aircraft in a bit more detail. So we're just in the cockpit. Let's have a look at some of the controls you need to know. The engine's running at the moment. You can stop the engine. It's a bit of a tap to. I'm not sure what the official way of stopping the engine is. You just flip off these four switches in the middle, that seems to stop it, and then there's a start button here. But we'll just leave the engine running. You notice the rotor's not turning although the engine is running. We've got engine gauges up there. They're responding. So I'll just say one little thing. The default pilot position here is a little bit of a pain because we've got this big door pillar right in the way, even in the upper position. So what I tend to do is scoot over a little bit. We're not actually in the seat. We don't have a co-pilot either. That just helps with visibility, so just in case your view doesn't match mine. We've got three controls in the cockpit that are important. We've got the parking brake, which we'll put off. We've got a rotor brake, so if we want that rotor to turn, we need to turn that off. There is a pre-rotator. Let's just see, if I taxi without using the pre-rotator, we should see that rotor will start to turn. There you go, you can see the shadow at least, there it is. And we can get that turning just by taxiing, but that said, and again the rotor brake will stop it, you should see. But the pre-rotator is controlled by this little thing, like a grip on the front of the joystick. You have to map that to the cowl flaps if you want to get that automated, and actually the mapping is a little bit cumbersome. If I can just show you what I've done. Controls, cowl flaps. To start the pre-rotator, you can't. There's no axis as far as I can tell. So you have to start it by mapping something like increase cowl flap 1, which will auto repeat if you hold it down, and that's until you get maximum cowl flaps, which gives you the full auto rotation. Then I found it's best to switch it off rather than doing the inverse of that and having an auto repeat. You can use this set engine cowl flap, and you can give it a value which is 0. That's just a long-winded way of showing you how to do that. So if I just demonstrate that, if I hold down the spin up button, so I'm holding it down, it's probably at maximum now, and that'll just keep spinning up. But if I now click once the button I've mapped to set cowl flaps to 0, that's just one click, and now it's going down and all the way to 0. If I put the rotor brake on, it will stop, hopefully, and then it won't start again when I take that rotor brake off. So that's pretty much all you need to know in the cockpit. I've got my other controls set up, just ailerons and elevators. Of course they're not ailerons and elevators in the gyro, they're moving that mast somehow, and rudder pedals. We do have a rudder. Let's get out on the runway. In fact, let's not bother with the runway, let's just take off from the taxiway. So if I use that pre-rotation to get it up to speed again, and we can basically take off in a very short distance. Now it's probably important, once the rotor is spun up, to disconnect that pre-rotator. In real life it's important, I'm not sure if it has any consequence in the sim. So there you go, very short takeoff roll. I'm pulling back slightly. That rotor RPM, somewhere in 250 range, is about right. It will go up to about 500 if you push it. So we're just manoeuvring at slow speed here, and we can tighten that up with the rudder, and we can actually crank it over and pull quite hard, and we get a very tight turn. And we've got noise from the rotor blades which kind of reflects that as well, which is a nice feature. We've got a yaw string on the windshield there. I guess we're trying to coordinate the turn, so if we step on it's like stepping on the ball if we had a turn coordinator, but we're stepping on the front end of that string. So if we're uncoordinated, no, we're not. There, that's me deliberately uncoordinating it. So I need to step with my left foot till that string is flying backwards correctly. I'm still on full power, so I'm going to just come off the power. In fact, I'll chop the power now. And if you up the speed, we can get the speed pretty low. I guess that amber arc means we shouldn't go any lower than that in terms of speed. So we're doing whatever that says, kind of 20 or 30 miles per hour, and we're dropping at 800 or 900 feet per minute. So it's undramatic, and actually if I just hold the stick there and increase the engine power, let me try that again, because we do tend to get into a bit of porpoise in here. Doesn't seem to be consistent. Not quite sure how you're supposed to fly this. There again, you see, just if I come on and off the power, it might be nice if you just controlled the descent rate, but it doesn't. The speed tends to vary wildly with increases and decreases of power. So that kind of makes the landing finesse a little bit difficult. So I've got the power off now completely. There's no obvious way to slow down other than to pull back. And then of course we've gone into we're told we're not supposed to be able to stall this thing, but that looked very much like a stall to me. I'll come back to that point in just a moment. Let's try and put it down. We'll put it down on the grass, because why not? So power's completely off now. that speed is scrubbing off too quickly, power's coming back in too late really. Let's just try that again. Okay, no power in now. Okay, I'm now feeding the power in to try and keep some kind of control over that descent rate. And there again, you see, there's a kind of lag there, you know. Once we start plummeting, doesn't matter how much power you put in. Oh, there's a bump there. Alright. So let's try and land it at about 30 miles per hour. I guess trying to just land it conventionally like a small aeroplane, like a small fixed wing plane. Well, you see, I'm on very low power now, I'm going very slow, but it's just not coming down at all. So let's go around again. It's good, it wants to go up again. I suspect what we're really being told is that amber zone on the ASI is probably not safe for landing. So let's try and land in the green zone. Well, that's pretty fast though for a tiny little machine like this, but let's try that. So we'll just create a bit more. Oops. Okay, so we're going to keep the speed at the top of the green. And then see if it behaves more like a fixed wing. So if I chop the power completely, the thing is, if you chop the power, it won't maintain that speed unless you're in a dive. Oh, it's just really hard to get this to do what you want it to do. So I'm coming in fast now, no power. Well, there you go. I mean, a conventional landing of sorts. So that's that. Let's go one more time. And we'll talk about that stall. One of the much touted and presumed defining features of an autogyro is it's unstallable. So we're going to just check it out, because in the Magni M24 in FS 2024 that doesn't seem to be the case. So I've got the power off, I'm holding the stick back, so it does a gentle nose drop and then a bit of bobbing, and it kind of stays there by and large. But what if we upset it, or what if we pull it? So we'll try that again. We power back on. You see, that's interesting. I'm pointing down, I've got power on, the rotor's stuck at 185 RPM, which is very low, and the speed is stuck at 10 or 15 miles per hour, and we're sinking at 2,000 feet per minute, and we're not responding to controls. So that's a pathological state. That doesn't seem right. There's nothing I can do is going to get that back. Oh, there we go. Hang on a minute. What's happening? I mean, that rotor speed just isn't good. I suspect there's something about the rotor speed is controlling this behaviour, and for some reason that rotor speed RPM has become stuck, and we're not able to change it. See, I'm exercising the controls fully here. Nothing's happening. Full engine RPM, and we do get some kind of, if we push this hard enough with the rudder, an auto rotation of the aircraft rather than. Oh, that's interesting. We didn't die there, so. So we're on the ground. The rotor's not running now. Can we pre-rotate it back up? Yeah, I mean, we seem to be fixed now. Okay, so we seem to be operating normally now. We've got full control. If I do the same thing again, chop the power, pull the stick back, holding the stick hard back, we're into that nod, and so it looks like once that rotor speed comes off, look, and well, we're going into that roll now as well, so I can't correct that. I've got full right pedal on, I've let go of all the controls, now we're just not controllable. That's kind of like a spin ish, not really like, and the rotor speed is actually still quite high, but we're stuck. So much for the unstallable wing. So by contrast, here we are in the Bulldog. A very different look. The panel is it's obviously much more of a vintage look. This is not a vintage aircraft, but it is a mock vintage aircraft, or a replica vintage of some sort. Remember, this was modelled also on a real world, almost real world aircraft. I'm not sure if we've got a rotor brake in this. Maybe that's a rotor brake, that thing that says don't use. Yeah, that's the rotor brake down there. Do not use in flight. That's probably good advice, but we've got the same controls as in the M24. So we've got, you know, what's essentially the same as the aileron elevator control. We've got rudder control. We've got toe brakes as well, independently if we need them. We do. I think the earliest model version of this didn't have a pre-rotator according to the manual, but we do have one here because it says pre-rotator on the panel. Well, that's interesting. As soon as I took the rotor brake off, it started rotating, which is not something it should do. What I thought I'd found earlier was if the rotor is not moving, I thought just moving slightly away from parked. Yeah, I mean, it accelerates that rotor far too quickly. And if I put the brake on and then take it off again, and if I press pre-rotate, it just goes instantly to fully spun up, which is, you know, I mean, just a bit of a, it's a bit of a clue really that what we're going to find isn't even as sophisticated as the Magni. So let's, if we just open the throttle, we do have a lot nicer sound, I've got to say. That radial engine sounds great. Then we're off the ground, you know, pretty much instantly. If I chop the power now, by the way, it takes us a long time to come back down. You know, we're looking at 100 feet per minute descent rate, and we're running out of runway fast. I'm going to let it clunk down just because we're running out of runway. Not even sure if we've got enough space. Like, let's go. So the view, we're flying it from the back seat solo. The view is of course limited in the manner of a golden age style aircraft, and of course the look of this from the exterior is very much in that vein. We've got the cowled radial engine. It's a genuine modern radial engine from Rotorhead, and it's got those bump, I don't know what you call those bumps on the cowling. There is a name for it, but so we're flying along. You know, we're controlling the rotor in lieu of ailerons and elevators. We've got rudder control. It's a very small rudder at the back, so we don't have a lot of rudder assertion. But here's the thing, that vertical speed is just absolutely wild. If I put it into what passes for straight and level flight, so that's there. We're on maximum power and we're doing 100 knots. If I just pull the stick back, I'm not going to pull the stick back all the way. I'm going to point us up at about 60-75 degrees. So we're climbing at 1800 feet per minute. Speed's dropping, but we're still going. Now you could argue that we're dragging it up on that. I don't know how powerful that Rotorhead radial engine is, but I have a hunch it's not powerful enough to drag us up in a, you know, let's see if we can go vertical. So almost zero forward speed now. Okay, we're starting to fall off a little bit there, but you know, maybe it's really that powerful. I'm not convinced. So power off. Let's see what this does. See if we get any dodginess like that. The Magni. He's letting the speed bleed off of it. Right, let's try and hold it. So we're at 40 knots. And we're going down at about 300 feet per minute. Speed's coming back to, you know, virtually, I don't know, it's probably about 10 or 20 knots there. 500 feet per minute. Now if this was genuine and realistic, you know, it's a great safety feature, because you could just sit here with the stick back and you'd hit the ground hard, but you probably wouldn't die. I suspect this is not realistic at all. Let's see if we can regain some of that speed. So massive, you know, vertical speed there. And here's another thing. Well, it wasn't quite fast enough there, but yeah, we can go over the top. Now you wouldn't do that. I don't think you would do that in an autogyro, but it doesn't bleed off energy like you would expect. I mean, I've had the throttle closed now for half a minute or a minute, and we're still, you know, struggling to come down. But you can fly this around easily. You can, you know, I mean, the benefit of this is, again, you've got an uninterrupted view, more or less, especially if you pop your head up. you can fly very slow. So I mean, for scenic sightseeing trips, maybe it's a good choice. If you want to make films and look at this from the outside, of course, I mean, this is going to be an amazing looking machine. So let's see if we can land. Again, we can get that tight turn, which is good. You know, it's a nice sort of stylish. Well, there's the shadow. It's a nice autogyro-like feature. I'm going for the grass here, in case you're wondering. Again, I'm cruising on no throttle, level flight, about 20 miles, 20 knots, and it's just not coming down. You know, so much for stall. It just won't come down. But, well, there you go, eventually, belatedly. And there's the merest blip of throttle and it's up again. Right, I'm in a turn now and it's still struggling to... I'm going to hit those planes, obviously. No, that's not good. Okay. Almost made it onto Dan Grider's channel there. So this landing behaviour, you know, unless I'm missing some way of dirtying up the aerodynamics, it's almost impossible to land. Oh, there's some kangaroos. It's almost impossible to land it. Let's go and scare those kangaroos. Yeah, you know, if you want a nuanced flight model or anything, or even, it's not even about nuance, it's, you know, this would be just, although a great sightseeing aircraft, it's so inconvenient in not being able to land the damn thing. I mean, I'm on a close throttle and it's going up and down, up and down. And it's practically hovering there, which you don't really want. Can we get anything like that spin we got in the M24? I don't think so. It's not really. I mean, it's corkscrewing because I'm holding it in that. If I go cross controls, that should spin it, but it's not spinning really. And if I let go of that, it just comes out of it, which is better than the Magni, I've got to say. I'll do an outside loop. I very nearly did. Not quite. Oh, that's interesting. The engine stopped. So that's maybe some concession to modelling an engine without inverted capability. But that's helped me demonstrate something else which is really annoying about this. Remember that rotor sound in the Magni? It was kind of nice, especially when you're doing tight turns. Notice the rotor sound is completely absent in this model. We do get various creaks and things from the airframe, and clicky noises from the engine, but no rotor sound, which is completely, it's not so much inauthentic. I mean, we're not expecting authenticity, but it just breaks the illusion completely, Which is disappointing. I had high hopes for this aircraft. If I'm going to fly a gyro at all, I had thought it was going to be this one, because I don't really like the look of that modern styled Magni. This one's much more like the old Waco biplanes. That's almost a passable approach. Again, we're going to use the full length of the runway. Oh no, we're down. So yeah, oops. Oh dear, that's not going to end well. So the look and feel of this one is nicer, but it's skin deep. So there it is, or there they are, 2 autogyros we can fly today in FS 2024, and one of which is also available in 2020. Now they're both undoubtedly photogenic, on the outside at least, and the Bulldog looks pretty good inside too. They don't really have the cachet of the golden age models in FSX, although it has to be said the Bulldog comes close with its 1930s styling. It would certainly be nice if golden age would bring some of the Pitcairn models into Flight Sim 2024, but at the end of the day it's all just a bit of a sham until the Sobo creates a proper autogyro flight model. Until then, stick with the Magni. It's not going to cost you anything extra, and it flies better than the Bulldog. If you're still on 2020, the Bulldog's your only option, and given those landing foibles, I think I'd hesitate to recommend it at all.